Hey everyone, welcome to the xAPI cohort. Just know it's week 9. Hard to believe that it's week 9, but it is. And it's amazing that we have come this far and we only have 3 more weeks. So today we have leveraging xAPI data to understand and improve the learner experience with Leslie Fausher and Holly Muha. So we're going to get to that in just a few minutes, but I'm going to talk to you right now about some of the upcoming things at the Guild. We have our next online conference, Work Smarter, Not Harder, happening on April 10th and 11th. And I know it does conflict with week 11 of the xAPI cohort, but for a short time. So, and we do record those. So if you want to get into that, please do so. And you can watch the xAPI recording for week 11. I'll drop the links for registering after I'm done going through these slides. Our next event, April 23rd to 25th, is the Learning and HR Tech Solutions Conference. It's a great conference. It's for both instructional designers, people in L&D, and people in HR. There's a lot of great sessions, and I know that if you go to the site and start registering, you might get lucky and get a discount spin. And of course, this is presented by the Learning Guild, and we are a member organization. You can find lots of great professional development on our site, including something like this xAPI cohort, which is free. And membership is also free at the Guild. And we give discounts to our face to face conferences, and we have a lot of research reports and so forth. And I just want to team updates. If anyone wants to give me a team update, private message me and we'll get you on the stage for the last few minutes of the session so you can give us a team update. And lastly, so this is week 9. We have another presentation in week 10. Weeks 11 and 12 are very special. We're calling it the xAPI Showcase. So what we're doing during those last 2 weeks is for the teams that have formed, we're giving them a little section of our weekly meeting here, and they will give us a broad overview of what they have accomplished, what they have learned, or what they have done here in cohort. So it gives an opportunity for anyone who's participated in cohort to give tell everybody what's been happening. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and turn things over to Leslie and Holly.
Thank you. I'm going to pull up presentation. Okay, thank you for having us. We're very excited to be here and share our xAPI journey. What a journey it's been. We've learned a lot along the way, so we wanted to go over the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's been a big project that we've worked on for several years now, so we have learned quite a bit, and it has been a rather iterative process, and we're excited to show you where we started and where we are now, and even talk about what we hope to accomplish in the future with this project as well. So to provide a little background of what we want to go over, I do want to give just a brief background about the Society of Actuaries so you understand where we're coming from and what our learners are experiencing right now as they progress through our online modules. We want to review the star of the show, the Learning Companion. And of course, we're always talking about metrics. We can't talk about metrics enough. And we wanted to just go over some of the candidate feedback we'd received about the Learning Companion as well. And then definitely save time for some questions that you might have along the way or at the end of the presentation. So Society of Actuaries, what is an actuary? It's the age-old question that we always get. And so just to give a brief background, the Society of Actuaries is the world's largest actuarial professional organization. We have a large membership base. We also have an even slightly bigger candidate base that are represented globally. We have candidates all over the world that we have to be there for and support along the way through different time zones and different language challenges, barriers, etc. We're going to focus on 2 educational pathways. There are 2 ways somebody could become a member of the Society of Actuaries. That's through associateship or fellowship. They can be either an ASA or a fellow. Fellow is a longer pathway. And within each pathway, it's a set of rigorous exams that they must pass, rigorous mathematical exams filled with a lot of complex equations and challenges, and the pass rates fluctuate depending on what exam they're taking. A part of those pathways also includes access to online modules that they have to take, and they also have to pass a formal timed assessment at the end of the modules. So for the purposes of this presentation, we're going to focus on the online modules because that's where everything takes place, and that's where the Learning Companion lives as well. So as a starting point, just to give a bit of a background of what our learners experience in a module, this is the makeup of our typical module. We've got, of course, a set of defined learning objectives. We have a significant number of readings throughout the module, both built into the module and external links that link out to websites or different articles that we've had to receive permissions for. We have interactive scenarios, informal quizzes, and informal knowledge checks. They are not required to answer those. Those are just for their own recall the information that they've come through along the way of the module. The real important assessment comes at the end of the module. It's a formal timed assessment, and it is rather rigorous. It's formally graded. And typically, we think they should complete the module in 50 to 60 hours. They think they can complete it in a couple of days, as some of the data has told us. So that's something else that we've dealt with along the way. We had an idea that some rush through the modules. Depending on the content, they try to fly through it as soon as possible. So we did have to consider and take into consideration those different types of learning styles. So our main objective for this particular project was to better support candidates as they travel through the modules, and we wanted to create more engaging opportunities for them where we wanted to slow them down, talk to one another if needed, have an opportunity to receive supplemental information to help them understand the complex actuarial concepts as they progressed through these modules. So our modules are hundreds of pages long. One of our flagship courses has over 1,000 pages. So a lot of times we've heard that candidates felt isolated as they travel through the modules, and we really wanted to provide them a platform to where they can connect with one another and enter the Learning Companion right over here. Okay, so I'll pass this over to Holly now, and she can discuss this part.
Okay, so our e-learning environment is a little complex. We have multiple platforms that we utilize to deliver our content. I will start with Domino 1 is where we create our module content. It is then pushed into Meridian, where that is the candidate-facing platform. And then we also have our Learning Locker, which collects all of our xAPI data, and it sends it. We utilize that data in the Learning Companion admin panel, is where we code our interactions for our Learning Companion mobile application. And then the next screen. What were we trying to achieve? So as Leslie mentioned, our learning environment was very isolated. Candidates would purchase a module, they would go through it by themselves, and they didn't really have any collaboration, anything with any other candidate. So our first accomplishment was to create learning content that is engaging and interactive, provide a collaborative learning environment for them where they could talk to other candidates, to get feedback, ask questions, anything like that, and improve their understanding of course materials through reinforcement and motivate learners to progress through course material. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. Oh, okay, so I have a demo of our Learning Companion app so you could get a feel for what exactly that looks like. And I will share my screen.
Okay, thanks, Holly. I'm going to just bounce back to where I was. Oops. Okay, one thing to note that we didn't mention yet is that the Learning Companion app, it is not required for candidates to download that. So we have to kind of write a fine line as to what material we deliver through the Learning Companion. It can't be critical information that they need to pass the assessment at the end of the modules. So we do want to keep sending them supplemental material that really will enhance their learning.
Okay, so the type of interactions that we currently have are progress announcements. So we could say, you've completed section 1, you're moving on to section 2. We hope that you have met these objectives, or something that it relates to their progress. We have timed collaborative quizzes. So a quiz will go out to a group, and they have a specific amount of time that they have to answer that question. We have the review and recall micro content. So that is where we have built questions into the Learning Companion app for the group to discuss. And that is critical information within our course. We have self-service micro content, and that is where the candidates can push articles to their Learning Companion app and maybe view them on their commute, or hopefully by train or bus. And just have that available to them in a separate place that's not the course. So those are our key interactions that we have built into the Learning Companion.
Yeah, and we did, I guess, experiment with different group sizes. When somebody starts their module, they are placed in a learning group. And in order to foster a little bit more collaboration, we expanded the group to, I think, how high did we go up till 12 or
16, I believe.
16 people, and then we dropped it back down again because we were trying to find the sweet spot of when they would be comfortable enough to share with the group, but not too much that the group was too large and they would be intimidated to start a conversation. So when they do start the module, they are placed in a smaller learning group, and we're hoping that they travel through with that group throughout their module progress.
Okay, so now the fun part, the xAPI data flow. So this is how we have coded all of these interactions. We start with the Learning Companion admin. That is the first screen picture that you see. And we use xAPI verb IDs. Mostly we use experienced, but we could use a few other ones that are available. But experienced is based on a learner visiting a particular page. So once they get to this page, and that is all done through Domino. Domino has xAPI statements for everything within our courses, by pages, by object values. We could go to the reading materials is also xAPI. So this is where we need to grab that xAPI information, code it into our Learning Companion admin panel. And then the next one is our course content. So on this particular page, the users will get a specific interaction. The next one is the data received. So we have the learning locker where we could see everything that's happening. We could see all of when a user views something, when they clicked on something, if they've gone back to something. We have this wealth of data in the learning locker. And then the last one is the coded message that is sent to the learner in their application.
There we go. Okay, so over to metrics. Metrics have been the most critical part of this project. We have spent what seems like thousands of hours talking about metrics because, especially from an upper management perspective, one of the biggest challenges of this project has been defining project success. We've dumped a lot of resources, time, investment into this. How do we know this is working? And it's hard to convey because there are so many different answers to that question from so many different perspectives. Sometimes it becomes a little fuzzy. Well, the candidates have a better learning experience. Well, is that enough to justify what we're doing with this project and future investment in it? So the xAPI data really helps us tell that story. And these are just some of the metrics that we're looking at. We keep adding to it, and we keep coming up with different ways to measure the success and how candidates are using the learning companion and if it is helping them. I mean, pass rates, of course, is one of the measures, but that really only tells part of the story. It's easy for us to say, well, we expect pass rates to increase by X amount percent. However, we can't really increase a pass rate until we know how to support a particular candidate and their needs. We may have candidates who drop off, who don't engage as much, or who may need reinforcement on a certain topic. What is their learning style? Are they just jumping through the material? So we want to eventually get to a point where we can classify a learner. It's like, okay, this person spent X amount of hours in the course and then they dropped off. Let's nudge them to have them come back to the material and the learning companion to keep them engaged in the content. We want to try to identify learning trends so we know how to support candidates. And there's a lot of different ways candidates learn, and we have to really try to use the data to identify how we can help support those candidates as they progress through the modules. So we want it to be more engaging for them. We want completion time. We have candidates who rip through the modules, or we have candidates who spend many years in the modules. Even though there's a cutoff for them, sometimes they just still won't finish. So we almost want to get to a point, we do want to get to a point where it's already becomes more of a personalized tutor, and they reach out to the candidate and say, I've noticed you've gotten this knowledge question wrong. Go back to this page and review this material. So, um, so metrics is an ongoing conversation. And to preface this whole project, we really didn't know any of this when we first started. I mean, all of this came throughout many discussions. And as the data started coming in, that's only the real time we started to analyze what we were receiving. We didn't have this grand plan as to all the metrics of what we were going to use when we started this. We just thought, I wonder if there's a way to engage candidates and support them better. And maybe help them. Maybe we do increase pass rates in the end, but maybe we help them and improve their learning experience along the way. So this is an ongoing conversation. We continue to have conversations about metrics, and I expect that will expand and blow out even more as we start to really get into the weeds of the data, because now that we have a massive amount of data, we have to just weed through and consider what is important to us and the learner. And how can we use those metrics to build on future iterations of the learning companion? Because we've really just rolled it out in our preliminary modules. They already have high pass rates. So we're really starting to get into the meat of our heavy actuarial modules, and we're really excited to see how those candidates leverage the learning companion as we release it into those courses. And we do intend to poll candidates. We want to conduct some qualitative candidate interviews. We're already collecting survey responses. So that gives us some information, but we really want to talk with them to get the whole story of why somebody maybe did not use the learning companion. And I think that is on the next slide, candidate feedback. Here are some of the comments that the candidates provided after first utilizing the learning companion. And we do have clear enrollment rates, app download rates. I believe some of our data shows that we had a 40% adoption rate out of the candidates who enrolled in our modules, in the couple of modules that we have this rolled out in now. But still outstanding is it making a difference in how the candidates learn? And what we do know for sure, what we have learned, is that it is changing the behavior of some of the candidates, and it's really what we're after. After they get a message to, oh, you should probably go look at this content again. they think, well, the SOA knows something I don't, and maybe it's on the assessment. They'll go back to that particular concept. They'll answer a quiz question. So they'll visit the content, the module material more frequently. They'll spend more time in the module. So we're noticing a difference in that regard, and it's subtle, but it's changing the way they learn or they behave. And that's really, I think, the foundation of this whole project. They're starting to listen to ARI for those who have downloaded and engaged. Now, on the flip side of that, some of the challenges from the other survey responses, I don't know that we've had them here. This was for upper management, so we wanted to make it sound a little bit better. But we are seeing some comments from candidates who didn't download it because they didn't see a use for it, or it was for a module that softer material like emotional intelligence, they didn't feel they needed to talk with other candidates, so they didn't collaborate with one another. So our collaboration rates were quite low, or they didn't, or somebody did have a question and they were never answered. So we are coming across some challenges, and as we get that data and look at those survey responses, we are going back and tweaking our interactions. Well, nobody's really answering the group quiz questions, or maybe we should put it in a different place in our content. So we're responding to everything as it comes in to us to try to make it a little bit of a more engaging and more worthwhile to the candidates. We really need them to take the initiative to download this because it is not required. We do want them to find its own value for themselves.
We're also hoping that as we collect this data, we could be more deliberate about how we're sharing that information with them. So if we could see that candidates who skipped section 2 of a module then went on to fail that section of the final assessment, that we could give them that information via the app and say, we noticed that you've skipped this section. 70% of candidates who skipped this section then went on to fail that part of the assessment. So being very deliberate about what kind of messages we give them so that they know that, oh, maybe I need to go back and do that so that they are more successful when they take their final assessments.
And that concludes our presentation. It's a lot to digest in 24 minutes. So if anybody has questions or comments or wants to know more about the Learning Companion, let us know. We'll be happy to go through your questions and challenges of the project. It's very time consuming. There are many facets of this project to discuss.
All right, so I'm not seeing any questions in our Q&A or in chat, but we're going to give people just a few minutes to kind of process and see if any questions come up. Does anyone have any questions? I guess not. That's
Okay.
really interesting, but that was a nice presentation. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Mhm.
And I do see something here. Was Ari an off-the-shelf product?
No, ARI was developed as part of the Learning Companion.
Okay.
And we found out right now ARI is not a personalized tutor. We do want to get there, but candidates, even though we said do not respond to ARI, I'm a chat bot right now, just to deliver information. They still tried to chat with ARI. They were asking ARI questions right off the bat. So that was our first sign to say, well, maybe we should look more into ARI talking back with them, which is our ultimate goal. But it was interesting that as soon as it was rolled out, they were trying to speak with ARI to get some assistance, additional information or different context for the material.
All right. So a couple more questions have come in. Did you read the LRS and use it as an input into the training so that you would know what the student needed?
No, we didn't. Go ahead, Holly. You went off mute.
So right now, as we mentioned in the beginning, we have about 40,000 candidates. So our LRS is massive, and we are just trying to dig into that information, gain what we could get out of it, and understand what we don't need to pay attention to. So the metrics, as Leslie mentioned, that is an ongoing conversation we've been having for about 2 years now about what data do we have, what data do we need, and what data do we want. So we're still discussing that, and we're hoping to get to a better place where we could then, like I mentioned, say that, this is the standard path. This is what a standard candidate, what their learning looks like. A successful candidate. Here's what an unsuccessful candidate looks like. And what do we need to do to either, from an instructional design perspective, add content to our course, adjust content to our course. Maybe it's something is confusing. As Leslie mentioned, we have a large international candidate base. So maybe something is confusing in a particular language. We have all of this data, and we're just kind of weeding through it now and trying to gather what we can. And we're hoping to utilize that in the future as we go into other courses to use that in a meaningful way.
Okay, great. Can xAPI be used with bots? I'm assuming chat bots like what you were using.
Yeah, we can get the information of what the candidates are asking Ari as well, which is really going to help us with our content development to see where we need to be more expansive or more clear with candidates, or maybe provide more different types of examples or scenarios for them. Definitely.
And one
Okay.
thing that we did not mention is actuaries are very solo. They're not they don't communicate broadly. They like to be like very siloed by themselves. So it's one of the communication is a big skill that we need to build upon for them. So that's another reason why we went for the app. And as Leslie mentioned, they really love to talk to the chat bot and not to each other. They ask her all types of questions.
Yeah.
So we do review those and then take that into consideration of what questions they actually have. And we're hoping to get AI in there eventually so that Ari becomes smarter and is able to actually answer their questions in a meaningful way.
That's interesting because I think when people see a chatbot, they want to ask questions and get information rather than
Yeah.
have an answer that's already programmed into the chatbot. I know that is something that I know you're working towards. So that's really great because I think once you get that piece working, as you said, Holly, your candidates tend to want to be more um, introverted, so they are better at, conversing with a chatbot. Although I don't want to stereotype actuaries out there, whoever is watching this, we know there are people of all different kinds and all different levels and everything. So we don't want to, stereotype anybody, but
And
that
we
is
did
their
notice that.
experience.
Yeah, we did notice that as well. We have a couple
Yeah.
groups that they talk up a storm, they talk constantly with each other, and we're looking at that, like what made this group so successful and make them talk so much, and some of these other groups, they're not chatting away with each other. So we're looking at that as well.
Yeah, and
Uh,
and again, we really want Ari to be have it be more personalized. We want them to have a conversation with Ari, but we want Ari to know what that particular learner lacks, what additional material needs to be sent to that learner, where they should go to recall that content or revisit that content and take that quiz again. So we really want it to have Ari become the personalized tutor. And once we've reached a point with the data when we're able to do that, we do want to go that route. That's our goal down the road. And another important reason for us to pursue this is we hear from candidates who don't get enough feedback, or they want more feedback when they have failed in their assessment. And by that time, they're already upset. They're already a little frustrated. They already think they know the material. So what this does, it gives the feedback on the front end instead of the back end after they fail. It's like, here is what you should probably recall. Here is where you should go and get that material reinforced for you to make yourself more successful on the final assessment. Because that's really been a sticking point with them, because they do spend a lot of time and a lot of money to take our assessments and our exams. And they do, when they hit that wall, they do get frustrated. So we want them to have an opportunity to learn the material in a way that works for them before they sit down and take that assessment. It is very stressful for them. These are hard exams to pass, and the modules can be just as frustrating because it is in a different format where some of the softer skills are used, and they may not be as familiar with the usage of those. So we do want to really help them ahead of time before they sit down and fail assessment. We want to make them successful.
Yeah, there's a whole like 6 or 7 different tests they need to take, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the and it's
Yeah,
very
there's
hard
a lot.
work.
It
Yeah.
is. It is. They spend thousands of hours studying. So, we're not here to just collect their registration fees and say better luck next time. We actually want to make a better actuary. You want to make them successful from associateship all the way through fellowship. We want them to take what they've learned and bring it forward and maybe stay with a learning group and have those people around them to support them the entire time. So we are trying to look at this more holistically to take them from when they start as a candidate in their very first exam or module all the way through to fellowship.
All
And we've
right.
also heard that there a lot of times there's only one actuary in a company.
Yeah.
So they need to network. They need to get out there and build a network of actuaries. So when they have a question about something, they could go to other people and ask them, how did you interpret this new law that we now need to take into consideration? So like there are a lot of different benefits to them utilizing this application.
All right. Okay, thank you so much, Holly and Leslie. And if you have any further questions, you go ahead and drop them in chat. I do have someone who would like to give us an update on his project team, so to speak. So I'm going to turn things over to Richard. And Richard, if you want to come on camera and just share your journey here in xAPI cohort, that would be great. Or not
Okay,
come on
so
camera.
first, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I'm trying, believe me, I'm trying to come on camera.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
if it's a
bear with
problem,
me.
sure thing. We'll
Okay, let's
just
see
be
if
a
that
little
turns it on.
patient here.
Yeah, no. Okay, I can just talk and I'll figure out the
Okay,
camera next time.
sure.
So the I'll give a little bit more of a background. This all started as a result of my taking pretty much every course I could find on xAPI, either LinkedIn or at websites. Uh, Mr. Bat is over there. I think he's in the cohort. I took his course on Udemy. I took a LinkedIn course. I took a LinkedIn learning course. I took them all, and they didn't match my brain.
Mm,
There's nothing wrong with any of them, but they did not match the way that I learn. So I wanted to just start by stripping out everything that wasn't xAPI related. So I took out, so Jeff uses Bootstrap as a formatting tool, and as I'm thinking, how am I going to explain this to people? Then now we've got to stop and explain what Bootstrap is. No, I don't want to do that. I think Devlin Peck added some other things that I just got rid of all of it. And I started with let's build this up from something simple. And I agree with everybody that the way to do this is to create pages that just do one thing. So I started with and in code. So I started sending hard coded information that I put in statements and sent to the learning record stores and then confirmed that I could read it. Then I took one variable. It's like, oh, here's how we do a variable. Then I took two variables. And at the moment, I'm working on developing a drop down box that will send one of 5 variables for the verb out to the learning record store. And so I'm hoping to have that done by the end of the cohort, and I could show that to people because once I get that part working, then the code duplicates to uh, objects, to use the library of objects. So that's what I've been working on. What I have not been able to do, and anyone who hears this and wants to jump in, I have not been able to do anything with the information in the record store. Hence, the question I just sent out there. I want to be able to have somebody push a button and, as we did a couple weeks ago, have that data recorded as to whether they did or did not meet a learning objective. And then on the basis of that response, branch the course in one of two directions.
hmm.
So I don't know if that's possible yet.
Well,
Uh,
what? Yeah, and what might I suggest that you post your question into the hashtag main on on the Slack channel?
I
And
did, and
there's
people said it can't be done.
oh, okay. I must have missed the
Yeah,
question.
yeah. No, it's. I forget where it is, but like, you can't. I was basically told you can't get there from here. So, or at least you can't get there from here without a lot of coding. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, that at least you have an answer to your question, and perhaps as things, um, progress in the xAPI world, that kind of situation will develop, and you'll be able to do that someday. Let's hope.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Richard. We really appreciate you coming on and just letting us know how things are going. And just as a reminder, everyone, uh, we will have a presentation next week, the week 10, and then weeks 11 and 12 will be our xAPI showcase. And the teams that have formed will be presenting, and looking forward to the xAPI showcase on those 2 days. If you have any further questions, I'm not seeing any other questions for Holly or Leslie. So with that, I'm going to tell everyone, have a good day. Thanks so much for joining the cohort, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.